Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Drains? Really? Not exactly the most thrilling dinner party conversation, right? But I am so pumped you're here with us today because we're going to completely flip the script on how you look at your property's plumbing. You know, most of us don't even give our drains a second thought until, well, something goes completely haywire. But today, we are reframing routine drain care. We're going to look at the data from the pros and finally move drain maintenance out of that optional luxury bucket and put it exactly where it belongs, as an absolutely essential financial protection strategy.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I've got to ask, is your plumbing basically a ticking time bomb? Seriously, think about it for a second. Why on earth do we always seem to wait for a totally catastrophic, incredibly stressful drain disaster to strike before we actually do anything? And it's always at the worst possible moment, isn't it? Like right before everyone arrives for Thanksgiving dinner, or at 2 in the morning. But here's the thing, as we'll see from the source material, sudden plumbing disasters are actually very rarely sudden.
Section 1. The Drain Failure Cycle. You see, according to the pros at Dr. Drain, these failures aren't just random bad luck. They actually follow a super predictable pattern. It's like a textbook life cycle of a neglected drain. Here's how it goes. Step 1, debris just quietly builds up over months. Out of sight, out of mind, right? You don't see it, so you don't stress about it. Then step 2, those tiny, minor blockages start popping up. The water drains just a little bit slower, but hey, it eventually goes down, so we just kind of ignore it. And then, bam, we hit step 3. A full-blown clog or pipe failure happens, and suddenly you are forced into an urgent, scramble mode repair. It's a painfully familiar pattern.
But hey, there's actually some really great news here. We have the power to stop this. We just have to interrupt the cycle. That's it. Scheduled annual maintenance is literally the tool we use to intercept this whole predictable chain of events. By getting in there, clearing out that sneaky buildup, and checking on the usual trouble spots while the fixes are still super straightforward, we completely eliminate step 3. It just never happens.
Section 2. Hidden costs of waiting.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that these 4 warning signals aren't just little household annoyances. They are literal red flags. These are the exact symptoms the technicians are hunting for during a routine visit, way before a full disaster strikes. We're talking about reoccurring slow drains, weird gurgling sounds echoing from your pipes, lingering odors that just won't quit no matter how much you clean, or water that's just draining unevenly. If you wait until the sink is totally blocked, you've already driven right past all these early warning signs.
And ignoring those early symptoms leads us straight to arguably the scariest phrase in all of home maintenance: cascading damage. Even a partial blockage restricts flow and causes these persistent, annoying backups. But if you leave it unchecked, it snowballs. You're no longer just dealing with a stubborn pipe. You're suddenly looking at moisture intrusion seeping right into your walls or completely ruining your floors. And trust me, that is exactly when the repair bills stop being a headache and start becoming an absolute nightmare.
Just look at the stark contrast we're dealing with here as property owners. On the left, we've got reactive repairs. When drains back up out of nowhere, your costs just absolutely skyrocket. We're talking after-hours service fees, rushed emergency diagnostics, and way more extensive labor. Now look over on the right at proactive maintenance. It takes all that chaos and turns into a totally predictable expense. Problems are caught early, the fixes are easy, and the disruption to your life is basically zero. So getting an annual plan, it isn't just spending money, it's putting up an active financial shield against those massive, unexpected emergency callouts.
Section 3. Inside an annual plan.
So, what are we actually paying for? While the exact services might shift a tiny bit depending on who you hire, a really solid annual plan always rests on these 4 core pillars. First up, routine cleaning, to blast away that accumulated buildup before it has the chance to harden. Second, a super thorough inspection of your drain lines to spot any early signs of wear and tear. Third, a targeted assessment of your main lines and any high-risk fixtures. And finally, giving you clear, actionable recommendations for your next steps based on what they actually find. Together, this whole shebang doesn't just clean things up, it sets a crucial, healthy baseline for your property's plumbing.
But keep in mind, not all properties are created equal. That's exactly why this maintenance has to be aligned with your specific property's risk profile. Do you live in a place with a much older pipe system? Does your house see tons of frequent, heavy-duty use? Or maybe you've got some gorgeous, heavy landscaping nearby. Well, those tree roots love to crack into pipes. Properties with these kinds of high-risk profiles really get the most bang for their buck with consistent preventive care rather than just crossing their fingers and hoping for the best.
Let's move to the next part and see how this all builds into real-world execution. A major provider like Dr. Drain literally deploys these heavy-duty tools across a massive chunk of Illinois, from Arlington Heights all the way out to Lake Forest. Just check out the scope of what they're doing. They're using high-pressure hydrojetting to absolutely obliterate stubborn buildup. They're running high-tech video inspections right down into the pipes, and even tackling complex sump and sewage ejector pumps. Seeing this kind of comprehensive scope? That's exactly what real proactive risk management looks like out in the field.
Section 4. Proactive plumbing pays off.
All right, if you take only one piece of highly actionable advice away from this entire explainer, please let it be this: timing is absolutely everything. To squeeze the maximum value out of an annual plan, you've got to schedule your maintenance right before the heavy usage backup seasons kick into gear. Get that inspection done on your terms, track your home's little quirks and symptoms, and definitely ask the technician to explain exactly what they're seeing down there. This is how you take back control.
So the crucial point is perfectly summed up in our source material. I'm just going to read this quote right here. A well-managed annual plan turns drain care into a predictable expense, often far cheaper than the alternatives. Boom! That hits the nail on the head. That is the core thesis of literally everything we've been talking about today. Over the long haul, actively managing your risk is just so much cheaper than constantly shelling out for panicked, middle-of-the-night emergency repairs.
And that brings us to our final thought for the day. Are you actually ready for the next backup season? Or are you just sitting around waiting for step 3 of that failure cycle to jump out and surprise you? Look, I really hope this explainer has shown you how making one simple shift, moving from reactive anxiety to proactive planning, can completely protect your property, save you a ton of cash, and honestly, just give you some much-needed peace of mind. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Now, go take a look at those drains.